in the Glory podcast, 10 days out till game day. Hunter Zarbnicki, Austin Rose, Dakota Freitag, Jackson Weeks back on the pod. Second time this year already. Jackson loves his defense. We're talking defense today.
Oh, the bones.
The video. We love it. Real quick, before we get into defense, QB1 has been named. Dak, I know you were very surprised.
Yeah, that was real shocking news. I thought for sure it'd be Harburg.
You don't say. That does seem like a classic football coach move to announce Harburg as the week 1 starter against UTEP.
People already bashing Harburg about. I mean, you want to throw him away? I bet we'll have to use him one of these days. So don't easy on him.
No, I agree. I like him.
Hey, who's the last quarterback to win 5 games in a year?
Adrian,
and that's all he won was 5 games. Harburg doesn't so bad, does he?
Jax, do you think Rule knew all along? Like, do you think he knew the second that we got him, he's starting QB? Or do you think, like, as a head coach, do you think he actually is playing it out in his mind and waiting for him to prove it?
I think he gave it an honest run, but I mean, when you have special talented dudes, I mean, I don't care how old they are. I don't care how much experience. I mean, I've seen 2 practices in a spring game, and the stuff that Raiola, he's so talented. He can do stuff that I don't know if Harburg can necessarily do at that level. Now, I'm kind of a Harburg guy. Like I think he's valuable to the program. Like, I'm not bashing him one bit, and I think we may need him at some point. But I think Raiola, from what I've seen, I mean, when I went to the practice you could go to, and then we went to one other practice, I mean, the guy doesn't miss. I mean, he's just really talented. So, I mean, I think when you watch that guy work out and you watch him go live, you got to find a way to make it work with a guy like that, you know? So from what I've seen, yeah, I think everybody expected that, but nice to have a little clarity, I guess. I'm not sure really the reason why they announced it, but I guess onward and
outside
upward.
of, I'm sure it was going to come out, you know, going into the week, you know, Royal is getting all the first team reps. It's like, well, why sugarcoat it?
Right. Yeah. Why not wait till the depth chart came out? I guess everybody wants to know what's going on, but yeah, I think it's fun for us fans to know a little insight on it, and all the hype's been around him. So, you know, you see the other side of it. Maybe it's a good thing that they announced it. So see if he can produce.
Yeah, the prediction maybe was that Rule was going to announce it on the radio show tonight when he talked to the media, but he did it obviously a lot earlier than that. So I thought that was interesting. Yep. Dak, you sent us a nice fun text about one of our offensive linemen. Why don't you share with everyone what you found out?
Well, first off, one more thing about Raiola. Boots on the ground report here. The new hot thing at UNL is his haircut. Every 95% of dudes I've saw walking around down there, that's that goddamn haircut.
The Patty Mahomes.
Yep.
Swag.
But yeah, okay. So I didn't know before last episode that your right guard was the Florida right guard that was throwing punches at Tennessee running back. You guys are set at that position. Don't worry about it. That guy is a dog.
I don't know if any of you guys heard I think he spoke with the media yesterday or the day before, and to Dak's point, he does. He sounds like a guy you do not want to mess with, and he basically just said, "No, we're not gonna have to, or they're not gonna have to come at us." He goes, "We're gonna be here," and he goes, "We're gonna come at them," and basically it's what you want an offensive lineman to sound like. And no offense to Matt Sichterman and some of these past offensive linemen, I think he was like a huddle analyst. Like, you want scary, mean dudes on your offensive line. Nasty guys. I think we got that.
That's what Nebraska football's been built off of. Yeah, that's what Nebraska football's been built off. I mean, Zach Wiegert, all those guys. I mean, those dudes were bad dudes. I mean, Dominic Raiola, you know, those guys you didn't mess with those guys.
So, Richie Incognito, you know, all the good.
Look over your shoulder with that guy walking in the room.
I can't remember. Did that dude throw any punches, or did he just square up?
He just squared up. He did throw a punch, but it was a long ways away.
Yeah. With helmets on. Punch. Yeah. With helmets on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he got suspended for a little bit for that, but Hell of a stance.
All right. Let's go through our defensive projected depth chart here. All right. Oh, real quick before we do that, we skipped the most important position on the offensive side of the ball. Janiron Bonner, probably starting at fullback. Let's hope we get him some touches.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah. How about Ron Brown? Back on the sidelines, able to coach now.
All right. Defensive side of the ball here. Tony White back, paying him a little more money, well deserved. That was probably one of the biggest quote unquote returning recruits that we kept around for this year. He did a fantastic job on a defense that nobody really believed it was going to work in the Big Ten last year, and it went above and beyond that. I think there are some changes in our secondary, in our coach. I guess we'll get to that here in a second. But I think that overall, the arrow's pointing up still for the defense. Now, I think this year it may be tougher to do that because of how well we did last year, but they need to take a jump, specifically with maybe forcing some more turnovers. I think that that's a focus, as they've stressed here in the offseason. But we can't get stagnant. We can't just say, oh, we were good last year, it's going to be good again this year. No, we can't be comfortable. Let's get better. And I think from what it sounds like, Coach White and Coach Rule are emphasizing that to the guys. Austin, what are your overall thoughts on our defense heading into this year?
I mean, I think it speaks to I don't want to say necessarily the talent, but the fact that 9 of the 10 guys with single digits were all on the defensive side. That's what happened last year, and we kind of undervalued that going into the year, and the defense looked studly last year. So I kind of expect that to carry over a little bit this year. We didn't have a ton of losses on the defensive side. I'm trying to think who our biggest loss would be. I mean, Henrich and wow, I just blanked on the other linebacker that left.
Reimer.
Yes, Reimer would probably be some bigger ones.
Good DB.
Yeah, but outside of Omar Brown, the other 2 linebackers, they were hurt a while last year. So I think that we're actually in an okay spot going into this year. I don't expect as much of a fall off as I probably would have expected based on how good we were last year, just because it seems like most people stuck around. And Ty Robinson looks freaking massive. If you haven't seen the single digit numbers picture, Ty Robinson looks like a freaking animal, and the rest of them are all athletes. It's crazy how big he looks.
Yeah, I think that Tony White has said it all the time in his press conferences, talked about like this team hasn't done anything, and I think that's the approach you got to take. There's a lot of reasons why you can be excited about this defense. There's a lot of reasons you can say, well, were they as good as the numbers said last year? They're playing a lot of bad offensive teams. So, I think that you gotta have the right mindset. You got to show up. You want to get better every day. And I think their objective is to be the best defensive team in the country. I mean, that's their goal. Obviously that's going to be a tough task, but I think they're handling it the right way. I think they're approaching it the right way, but like we've said, or like you guys have said on this show a million times, like you got to see it, you got to do it. I think they've got a lot of momentum, and I think they got a lot of confidence. So that always usually bodes well, but we'll see.
Probably not catching as many people off guard this year.
Right. And I think, the adjustment to the 3-3-5 in the Big Ten, I think, people will be more ready for that. So, being good one year, the biggest challenge is being good the next year. So that's in any sport. So excited to see what happens.
Yeah. The element of surprise is gone for the 3-3-5. The good news is I think the defense is structured in a way that you can continue to be creative, take some risks when you need to, doing some different stunts at the line with your linebackers. So I think there's a lot of things you can still do with it. And that's just speaking from playing on the video game with it a little bit. There's just so many different formations that are variations of it, I guess, that make it look like a 4-3 or a 4-2-5, but it's still truly that 3-3-5. So with that being said, actually, Dak, you got any comments on our defense?
Well, the main thing is, yeah, they were good last year, but you got to factor in, you had no offense at all last year, so they were always on the field playing.
Right. I was gonna say you
And
can
now,
factor in the offense, put them in so many bad positions last year, regardless.
yeah, I mean, that
Those-
Colorado game, you put them in jail the whole first half, and I think they just gave up that second half. They're like kind of like fuck you. But anyway, that first half they played against Colorado was amazing.
They had like 12 sacks alone in that game.
Yeah, and they gave up in the second half because they're like, we have no chance in their offense. But yeah, you got to factor in that your offense will be better. Well, you hope better. So I don't know, they'll have more rest this year and won't be playing as much, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it with that Colorado game, and that is going to be the first big offensive test here that we see early on in the year. And it starts with our D line. So let's just jump into the depth chart here. Terrence Knight and the D line coach. We are listing 3 guys here as D linemen. You can call a couple of the guys edges. Nash is truly a nose tackle in this defense. 4 of these guys have black shirts. So Ty Robinson, we've mentioned him already. Jamari Butler and Cam Lenhart. We're going to see all these guys play. Elijah Judy is going to be in there in that mix too. We're going to see a lot of guys come in, be fresh. It is a very experienced group. I mean, you look, we're going to be 2 seniors and a couple of juniors out there. So it should be a group that brings a lot of experience and hopefully can get more pressure like we saw in that first half of the Colorado game throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, those 4 guys with the projected black shirts, I think you can write that in red pen. Rule said tonight in his radio show that you know, probably going to start, you know, a 3-man front, but you know, Cam Lenhart, if he doesn't start, we regard him as a starter. So those 4 guys, I think, I mean, unless something crazy happens, I think those guys are going to be the first guys you see, you know, with their hand in the dirt.
So they're looking at maybe running a 4-man front every now and then.
Well, you just do. I mean, the way I understand it is you can bring a guy down, you can be 4-man front, you can be odd, whatever. You know, it's just so, you know, you can just play with it so much. So I don't know if it's they sometimes they brought that jack down to the edge, you know, like Prince Will or MJ Sherman would come down and play that edge. And, you know, if they needed a little bigger front, sometimes I think, you know, Lenhart and Jamari Butler might both be playing the edges. So, you know, like Hunter said, it's just so, you know, it can morph to whatever, you know, they kind of want to do, which is kind of the cool thing.
And I mean, Ty and Nash are going to be down just strictly because of their size. But all these guys are going to have the ability to move around. And that's what makes it very intriguing and hard to plan for on the offensive side of the ball. Austin, anything else to add on the D line?
I don't think so. I totally agree that the 4 black shirts from last year are going to be leading the pack on the D line.
We think the D line is going to be the strong point of our team. I mean, that's what I think. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
yeah,
I think they need to be. I think especially in the Big Ten, as we know, even the new Big Ten, controlling the line of scrimmage is utmost importance on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and that's led by these guys. And yeah, Nash and Ty are going to be hard dudes to move.
And I'll say this too, that the wild card in this whole thing that the coaches talk about all over and over that might be the next black shirt is James Williams. They call him Rock the Baby, the sack man, and they're really excited. You know, Elijah Judy, they've talked about him several times. The transfer from Texas A&M, and then you know Riley Van Poppel, that big goal line stop at Illinois. I mean, they got some dudes, man. Just hope they not satisfied with last year.
I want to give a shout out to Riley Van Poppel winning the Heisman on College Football 25 in my third year.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out Riley Van Poppel. And I will say this, I wasn't even controlling him half the time. I like to control linebacker. Okay, moving on to the linebacking group. Rob Dvorak, the position coach there. 3 guys listed here as well. as standard for the 3-3-5, but again, like Jackson mentioned, a lot of moving parts. John Bullock, projected starter, one there. That jack position will be Prince Will and MJ Sherman. Javin Wright, since our last episode, that's been a bit of a bummer news. I have not looked into seeing if there's anything more out about that. The initial ruling was out indefinitely, but he's still listed here in that
for medical reasons. They didn't give any specifics. So,
not football related is what Rule said tonight.
Yeah, non-football related medical issues.
Interesting.
And one thing about you guys don't know, Javin Wright. So I had a cousin that was a walk-on wide receiver there. He was best friends with Javin. So Javin actually hung out on my couch in my living room a couple summers ago for a few hours. So and he didn't really understand why there was all the Husker stuff on the walls. I said, yeah, we're crazy here. We love this stuff. And he's like, wow. So anyway, he's a good kid. I feel terrible for him. Hope, I think there's a chance he can come back. So I hope they can get him back.
I will say this. I think we're still in good shape there. Obviously, we get a little less deep, but I think Mekhi Bayer is a good option. We saw him play some snaps last year. I remember actually talking to Jackson. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And Jackson knew exactly who he was. And I'm like, oh. So, and that was early on in the year. So I think we have some options. The linebacking group out of the three is the one I'm probably most concerned about. We have a couple of seniors, but I just don't feel like we're very deep. And outside of those guys that have played a little bit, there's not much experience there. I think it has potential, but I do. This is the one position that I worry about the most, losing a couple of key players last year from that starting group. And I think the linebackers are your quarterbacks, right, of your defense. They're the ones that are seeing the line of scrimmage. They're seeing the motions. They're calling stuff out. They're the ones communicating to everybody else. The secondaries on their end and the D lines got their job. So it's one of the most important positions, and it's also one of the more concerning in my mind.
Well, plus with the 3-3-5, they're in the middle of that 3-3-5, so that kind of impacts your flexibility if they're a weaker unit.
It's with those new teams coming to Big Ten, it's gonna be really tough to play linebacker because you go from Iowa team, then you go to a spread USC, back to like Wisconsin, run the ball, Minnesota run the ball, and then you go Oregon, watch all those new teams come in and run the spread. So it's gonna be totally different every game.
That's where losing Javin hurts because he was really good in coverage. One thing I'll say about the linebackers that these guys can all move around. So like they're talking about Mekhi Bayer playing inside linebacker, and then they're talking about Rule said tonight on his radio show that he thought Johnny Bullock could be one of the better linebackers in the conference, and then Prince Will is supposed to be one of our best players coming back. So, and MJ Sherman so you just don't know quite where they all fit. It's it's kind of hard to tell on that part of it.
I like speed at linebackers. I mean, that's the big thing. I think our poor linebacking cores in the past 15 years have been slow, and it's been very evident. I think these guys got some speed though, which is a bonus. Moving on here.
Go for it. I was just gonna say, without Javin, we lose 5 of our top 7 tacklers from last year. Yeah. So something worth noting.
Yeah.
Was Javin Wright second in tackles? Javin?
Yeah.
It's Javin. My bad.
Javin.
John Butler, the new position coach for the secondary. From what I've heard about him, he brings a very NFL type mindset to this group, which I think is important to have. The secondary, we talk about moving parts on the linebackers. The secondary is where things are really getting shifted around, finding where guys fit in. Malcolm Hartzog's one that is getting thrown into safety, and that sounds like where he's going to end up playing this year. We are very experienced in the back end, and I like that. There's a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps for us. I think there's a lot of flexibility with some of these other guys that are right below them. I don't think it's our strongest position, like we talked about the D line, but I do think it's solid. I do think we are going to have to make plays back here more this year than what we have in the past to force some turnovers. I think we have some potential there, but we've also seen some of these guys get burned in some big play moments in the past as well. So I think there's a fine line of jumping a ball and taking a risk versus playing a little more conservative bend don't break style. I don't really know what that's going to look like here. From what it sounds like, maybe we're going to be a little more aggressive, but that might come with taking some more risks and getting beat over the top. So we'll have to see. I think this group is solid. I think there's a lot of depth here, and like I said, very flexible.
What a resurrection story for Tommy Hill. I saw he's projected to be drafted first round. That man was fumbling punts 2 years ago.
Fumbling punts, and remember, he was a wide receiver.
Yeah, he was.
Travis Fisher was done with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, coming in last year, you guys were like, I don't know where this guy's even going to play.
What's interesting is that Rule liked him from the jump, and so the previous staff liked him too. Like Frost liked him. He wanted somehow to play him. Fisher did, but he has something about him that I think coaches want him on the field, and I do think him getting the highest rating, and that was all over social media on the video game. People just think Tommy Hill's just this awesome defender, which I think he's going to be solid. I think he might be getting a little overhyped, but yeah, you're right.
Last year.
He was good last year. And kind of a funny story about, Travis Fisher, the 2 cornerback coaches ago, said Tommy Hill's name could be hanging up in Memorial Stadium someday. And then about 2 weeks later, he said, "Get him out of my DB room." I kind of maybe have an idea of, what type of, how it is to coach him. And he's probably just a guy that needs some people that help him along the way. And coaching staff has obviously done well with him. So rule of the night. So Marquise Buford was the one question mark for me, because he always played when Frost was here. He was always safety, and he was pretty good back there before he got hurt. And Hartzog was cornerback, so they flip-flopped. And Rule said tonight in his radio show that it'll be Tommy Hill and Marquise Buford starting at cornerback. So
we can get rid of the or on Bly Hill.
Yeah, we can get rid of that.
Yeah, 4 of our 10 single-digit guys are in the back. So I think you're right on when you say that just the experience. We said the D line is probably the one we feel the best about, but honestly, the DB
secondary, I feel good too.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about that too.
Yep.
Your depth from your defense to your offense is like night and day. You get guys hurt on offense, you have no faith behind that. Defense, you feel pretty good with the guys behind them.
Wide receivers are pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Running back, we don't know.
Your O-line, though.
O-line is the scary part.
I feel like the O-line and the linebacking groups are both the thinnest groups.
Yep.
And I don't know. We got one coming up.
Yeah, let's just go to that. Moving to the special teams.
You have to have a top to be thin.
So, our place kicker, who is kicking field goals and extra points for us? That is still up in the air, to be determined. It sounds like it's probably down to Tristan Albano and John Hole. I don't know. This just makes me cringe. One, because Albano wasn't great to begin with, and now he's also injured. So not only does he have the mental side of dealing with not being a great kicker from last year, but now also he's dealing with an injury. Maybe John Hole can come in and be the answer.
Has he been that bad in camp, Albano?
Yeah, he's been hurt.
He had some hamstring surgery done, but supposedly Ed Foley came out and said that he's actually kicking pretty well. That's what he said. You're not gonna come and be like, my kicker's dog shit. We need to do open tryouts again.
They're all mental midgets. You don't want to say, yeah, this dude sucks.
John Hole's going to get the first extra point of the year. That's my read. It's going to be John Hole. I think Albano is really good, and he can, but he just wasn't as. I think they really like Albano. I really do, and I think Albano is. So Ed Foley said that Alvano he's just got a really good mental makeup for a kicker, and he's a special kicker. But I think, his consistency last year was, and he didn't miss an extra point. Now,
I say he didn't miss any extra points. He missed 6 field goals.
What was
6
he?
field goals attempt. Then he was
14 for 21.
He was 9 for 15 is what I have on ESPN.
Okay.
And he missed 1 in the 30 to 39 range and 5 in the 40 to 49 range. But he was good for 55, and he was for 2 and under 30.
That's the second longest kick in Nebraska football history behint Alex Henry. So the dude's talented. Yep. I mean, He's not crappy by any means, but I just think Rule said tonight in his radio show, that's one thing that keeps him up at night. They got to figure out that kicker spot. And if you don't trust that guy 100%, that the kids know that. The kids, you're kind of wavering on your faith on him. And so, I would guess that they would just get him healthy and ready to go just for the mental side of it more than anything. And when I went to the fan practice, John Hull was impressive. I mean, he was drilling them for 40 plus, and they were right in the all-state hands, right on the money. So my guess would John Hull would take the kicking spot as of right now.
The punter, we better change Brain to Brian. Brian Buschini's most likely going to get the nod at our punting position. Minimize the shanks. That's the only real thing I have to say here. He's got a leg. We've seen the leg. We've seen some of his bombs, the Buschini bombs. Just got to minimize the really bad ones. I think the approach that we are taking on special teams with the kicking, the punting, obviously the ball security on both returns, I think that's very important. I think that's good. Almost treating it like it's 33% of the game. Because I do. It impacts the game so much, especially in the Big Ten, when you're playing a lot of these teams that your possessions are minimized because of the run the ball and the clock's moving. So any comments on Buschini?
Yeah, I got a question for you guys. Okay. So this is the way I think. So I know football and football coaches, there's so much importance on the hidden yardage. I get that. Okay. But to me, I think a lot of why Buschini had struggled last year at times, and I don't think he was terrible. I think he had some bad ones, but I mean, to me, I want to know why. Just if you're shaky on it, kick it through the end zone. Stop trying to pin it. I mean, is that just stupid to think?
No.
I think sometimes he was trying to kick it through the end zone and shanked it out.
I'm telling you guys, he's got a cannon of a leg.
Yeah, it's a good point. Think about some of his best punts were when we were, on our own 20 or 25 or 30, when you're not thinking about placing it really anywhere. You're just, you got the whole field and see you later. That's a really good point. I think, yeah, when we're nearing midfield and if we, need to punt, I think that's something to think about. Instead of overthinking it. It's kind of like a chip shot in golf. If you overthink it and you short arm it and you duff it, right? So
get the putter out and hands.
Yep, just play it safe. I think that's important. Yeah,
that's my thought on it. I don't know. Although Buschini got interviewed too this week, and he said he's hitting it better than he has in his career.
Everyone's doing the best they've ever been.
And that kind of seems like a trend for Nebraska.
Long snapper, don't need to mention or talk too much about these guys, but we'll say their name. Camden Wataki. Do a good job back there. I mean, pretty simple job.
Actually, I had something. No, I didn't think about the long.
Returners. I think there's a lot of names that you could throw around here. Isaiah Garcia Castaneda is one we've been hearing. Ja'Cory Barney just sounds like just a speed freak. And we will probably see him back there at some point this year. And then the two Johnsons out of the backfield also are going to be solid returners as well. This intrigues me. I think we need to get something out of here too. I think Rule's a big believer in returning kicks, as we saw last year, which I think is very good. I think he said, if the ball's in play, we're returning it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Any other comments on returners?
Rule said that if we played tomorrow, it'd be Isaiah Garcia Castaneda, but Rule also said that Garcia IGC has good days and bad days, kind of with his knee a little bit. So, Rule said if we played tomorrow, it'd be him, but we'll see. So I think he's, whether it's a mental thing or whatever it is, I think he's kind of trying to get back to feeling himself a little bit. But I think back there, punt return guy, you got to have a guy back there you really trust. And I think with his, experience, and Dak says he's played college football for 72 years, that guy probably doesn't make many mental mistakes back there. So.
Yeah, I agree.
He's got to know how to catch a punt by now.
Yeah,
right. That's why I guess him and Ramir probably do quite a bit of kick returns or punt returns.
All I can think of when I think of IGC is the catch he had in Ireland. And I was sitting in Hunter's backyard, and I'm like, gosh, we're going to be good. We're fine. Frost, we're good. We're fine. It's all going to work out.
And then we onside kicked it.
Yeah, we onside kicked it.
How long before college football adopts NFL kickoff rules?
Soon.
Yep, within 2 years. It'll be here before we know it. All right. Good discussion there. Let's see how spot on we are with our depth charts. I say we are special analysts. Their depth charts. Week 0, guys, is here. That means it's time for Dak to unleash all of his wisdom and give us his locks each week. So this year, how we're going to do this a little bit differently. Dak's going to get 30 seconds. He can rattle off as many as he can for week 0 and doesn't really need to provide an explanation. Now there's only 4 games this week, so he might elaborate a little bit because he's got time. But in the future, it's going to be rapid fire. And then when we're done, we will have the discussion. And we're going to keep track of all this, rank all these scores and wins and losses very closely this year. Dak, what'd you say, 70%? That's your that's your expectation?
If I hit 70%, I'll be happy.
So
if I hit 50, I'll be happy, but 70's
55 or
70's
56 is what you need to win money, Dak. That's all we want. 56.
How much? 56?
56%.
All right. Well,
these
people are going to be rich.
4 games this week. Florida State, Georgia Tech. That's the headliner. The Ireland game that kicks off at 11. And then Montana State and New Mexico at 3. SMU and Nevada at 7. And then the late game, 11 p.m., Delaware State and Hawaii. Fun one that'll be. So we'll see what Dak
anywhere.
All right, Dak, you ready?
Yep.
30 seconds on the clock, and you're going.
All right. So first one, I got Delaware State plus 39 against Hawaii. First off, they haven't landed in Hawaii yet. I don't know what's going on there. The flight got delayed, something like that. There's supposed to be a hurricane during the game. I don't think if there's a hurricane during the game, I don't think Hawaii's going to beat them by 40. Next one, Nevada plus 25 against SMU. You know what? I think Nevada's always been a decent team. I know nothing about most of these teams I'm seeing here, so that's all right. Anyway, I think Nevada's been a decent team. SMU's been all right too. I just think Nevada can keep within 25 points. Next one, New Mexico plus 11.5 against Montana State. Montana State just sounds like a team that sucks. Or no, it's New Mexico minus 11.5 against Montana State. Montana State sounds like a team that sucks, so I'm taking New Mexico minus 11.5. Next one, Georgia Tech plus 10.5 against Florida State. I don't know why it's plus 10.5. There's a reason. It was 14.5. It's dropped this low. There's got to be a reason that it keeps dropping. I think Georgia Tech will be all right this season. They got Haynes King coming back. And it's a primetime game. It's always the Ireland game's usually close. Last year was a shitty game, so it wasn't. But the Ireland kickoff game is usually pretty close. So I got Georgia Tech plus 10.5.
No way that was 30 seconds.
You got to work on your timing here. I just let you go.
4 games, and I'm pretty sure you blew through like a minute and a half.
What? How long was that?
That was a minute. I had about a minute.
So what time my question is, what time do we have to stay up to see that Hawaii final score? Like 6 a.m. or something?
Yeah, it'll be probably 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. So
Dak, here.
first thing, Dak, it is New Mexico plus 11.5. Montana State is favored by 11.5. New Mexico is horrible. They got Bronco Mendenhall as their head coach this year.
Look out for the Bobcats, man.
You're getting plus 11 instead of minus 11.
Yeah, don't give me minus 11. Still give it to me.
So, did you take all the dogs? You did, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
That Georgia Tech one was a coin flip. I did not know which way to go.
I was going to say I might go with you on that one. I like Florida State a lot in that.
No, I took Georgia Tech.
I know. Tech. So I might go against you on that. I said with. I'm going to go against you.
There's a reason though that's dropping.
I think they're going to smash them. They're pissed off they didn't make the college football playoff. Come out and send a message.
Oh, and Nevada's
remember that.
Nevada's horrible. I'm on SMU. I might go opposite of all of you because I like
Chubba Purdy now.
Second stringer. Speaking of that, how about our quarterbacks, Jeff Sims and Chubba Purdy, not getting a nod on the QB1?
Wonder why.
I heard Jeff Sims is in the running.
Not anymore. Jeff Sims QB2.
Arizona State.
Does this week 0 give you guys nightmares?
It's so bad.
I'm glad we're not playing.
Yeah. Bad slate.
It's football. That's what I love. Like people that aren't tuning in on Saturday or at least following along. I say that because we'll be at a golf tournament, so may not be watching a lot of it on TV. But if you're not watching that Florida State Georgia Tech game, are you really a true fan? I mean, week 0, baby.
Although that stadium is haunting as well, so I don't know. Maybe
I don't know if we really do need to see it on TV.
Next year, I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter's there. It's K-State, Iowa State.
Ooh,
there we go. After Avery Johnson wins the Heisman this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can put money on that.
I've already have.
Speaking of that, hey Dak, are you like rolling in the money right now?
On what?
Well, you knew Dylan Raiola was going to start for sure. You should have bet on it.
Yeah, I thought about it.
It was plus odds at one point.
It was.
Was it really?
Oh yeah.
Well, plus 185.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Okay. I wish I'd known that.
No, you're hating your life now, aren't you?
It was not plus odds.
Yeah, it was. Look it up.
Okay. Well, I missed out on that one.
All right. We'll be back on Sunday. It'll be game week. We'll be talking some UTEP Miners. See what they got for us. I really have no idea. I just know they got a new coach. So.
Hey, that's probably more than most people.
Lots of research we have to do on that one.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Jax.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Football's back. Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
PBR.
Boomer Sooner.